Welcome back to the Impact Effect podcast, and I am fired up. I know I say it every single week, but we've got a special guest, Brian Neely, in the house, and here's the thing. Impact comes natural for Brian. Everything he does, all our conversations since the day we met have been around heart, compassion, community, and impact. So you know that this is going to be an amazing conversation with Brian as there's so much alignment. Please help me welcome Brian Neely.
Thank you so much, Jim. It's an honor and a privilege truly to be here. I appreciate it so much. I look up to you in a lot of ways.
Let's go, man. I appreciate the kind words. So in true Impact Effect podcast fashion, first question I ask all the guests, how are you showing up in the world and providing impact today?
I have a saying that I say a lot, that not every day is a good day, but there's something good in every single day. And I need that more of a reminder, I think, than the people that I tell that to. And every single day I try to make a positive impact around the people that are close to me, whether that's a stranger, whether that's somebody that I know. I just believe in we are here to serve others. And I really try to do that through my coffee shop, through just genuine relationships with people, through the athletic endeavors that I've been able to do. I truly just want to make people laugh, as you can see with what I'm wearing. I believe in embracing who you are to the core, and when you really embrace that, I just want to show up and make a difference and make an impact. And I think that's why I really resonate with the things that you do and the things that you say from the moment that I had the opportunity to meet you in the craziest ways.
Totally. And thank you for that again. So you mentioned, you're competing, the coffee shop, what have you been up to, man? Tell us what you're doing. Let's dive right in.
Absolutely. Yeah. So I've been doing a lot of different things in regards to, it all goes back to the whole rising up. Rising it up is something I say a lot. It is something that I believe in regards to everyone that's in my circle. I want them to rise up along with myself. I am very goal driven, very oriented on athletically. I've been doing a lot of obstacle course racing, Spartan DECA events. The last competition I did was a world championship race, which I've had multiple opportunities to do in the past. And it's something that I take from that is just doing hard things. When you do hard things, you learn a lot about life. Just yesterday, I got asked, Brian, why do you do these things? And I listed off a lot of things, and it all reverted back to, I want to push myself to show myself that I can do hard things. And when life gets hard, which I believe that every single person faces mountains, faces battles in life. Some are more apparent than others. But when you face those battles, you have a choice. You can either lay down or you can choose to rise it up. And one is not going to do anything for you or for anybody else except something negative. And the other one's nobody wants to be around somebody who's just negative all the time. So I try to, through the racing side of things, through the coffee shop, which is in Mount Juliet, Tennessee. We have organic coffee. It's really going more towards the healthy side of things with the food options. We have comedy shows that we're doing on a monthly basis.
And this is Billy Goat Coffee.
Billy Goat Coffee Cafe in Mount Juliet.
Okay. All right. So pause for a second because there's two questions I have, and I don't want to let them slip away.
Okay.
The first question is, rise it up. You want to bring people up with you.
Yes.
That's the centric point of community. So when you start talking about Billy Goat Coffee and you start talking about bringing a community together, those two things are just so much in alignment. The second thing is, and we're going to dive into all the details about Billy Goat because I'm really curious about this from a real estate perspective, from an acquisition perspective. I understand you purchased this business.
Correct.
So I want to talk about that. But ultimately, who you're bringing into this space and how you're looking at it. You are looking at it like a community space. You are looking at it different than just a coffee shop. And the beauty in it is you're using good coffee beans, organic, the coffee tastes good, but that's the base, let alone everything else that you're building around it and the people that you're bringing in, different groups. I saw some prayer study stuff, musicians. Man, you're doing it. You're bringing everybody together in this one central location, this central spot. The other thing that I wanted to just give you kudos on is, and you talk about rise it up. The first thing you said earlier was whether it's a friend, whether it's business or a stranger, is you bring that positive energy to rise it up. Right? There's a lot of people, and this is something that I try to stay on top of when I meet with people or whatever my day looks like, is bringing that good, positive, high energy, because you can spin someone's day in the energy you bring and how you talk and how you provide value to them. And a lot of people think value needs to be money or immediate opportunity. And I think, Brian, you can dive into a little bit about other ways you bring value, because you're doing it in everything you do. But ultimately, community is that centric point.
Absolutely.
And I just want to give you kudos to all you're doing. But let's dive into Billy Goat real quick. You acquired it. Tell us about that process, about maybe speak to someone who may want to acquire a business or have a dream. And, I don't know, man, tell us how it went.
Yeah, so I'll start with, I believe life is short, and all the things that I've done with the coffee shop and just in my life, a lot of the encouragement, it comes from a point of pain and really embracing when you hit rock bottom. Like, I'm a believer, if your rock's in the right place, one, you're in the best place you could be, but there's only one way to go, and that's to go up. And it's something that's through the pain of having suicide ideation, attempting to take my life at one point. It's seeing my cousin take his own life,
Yep.
seeing multiple friends of mine die tragically in car accidents, even recently. And it's something that it's been a part of my story. And it's something that I try to bring into the coffee shop in a positive way.
Yep.
I understand what it's like to feel alone. I understand what it's like to not want to live anymore. Coming from somebody who's had opportunities to do a lot of really amazing things and is seen in a positive light, but it comes from because I've been there, and like I still go through those moments where I don't want to get up. Even within the past couple of weeks, I've had those moments where the person that you're looking at is somebody who's very encouraging and inspiring is dealing with, man, I'm not motivated to do anything. And the community aspect, I'm a firm believer, like I know who I am and I'm confident in that, but I still know who I am. I still need a community to remind me on the days that I forget who I am.
Of course.
So I have a coach who's a really good friend of mine on the athletic side of things who has helped me to, and her name is Amber Tate, and her husband is also one of my race partners that I run with. And she reminded me, like, Brian, get out of your head. And it's just something like that to community is what we're here for. Like
Totally.
if you go through everything just doing it yourself, like one, it's not as enjoyable. In the coffee shop, like I want people to come and get high quality coffee, which we've upgraded the coffee since taking over, and it's all organic. Our coffee is really good, but our coffee is not what draws people to Billy Goat. Billy Goat is a community center coffee shop, and that's why I'm trying to do things like we've had 2 comedy shows now. The next one we're having is on January 24th, and it's already, we've sold more tickets than we've had in the other 2 events already.
Nice.
So it's
Congrats.
thanks, and it's something that we want people to laugh. We want people to come together. We've held Zumba classes there. We've held live music nights. There's eventually I want to hold goat yoga there. Like
Nice.
just different things that reach different people in different
course.
lights, and it's a one-stop shop in a way that people of all walks of life can come. And for example, I had an opportunity a couple of days ago to meet with a couple that just lost their 16-year-old son in a car accident like 3 months ago. And it's something that if I haven't gone through what I've been through, if I haven't led as a military officer, I've led 195 military funerals, and majority of those I handed the flag to the next of kin. So I wouldn't have had the strength to do that if it wasn't for all the experiences that really I believe God has given me to be able to minister to other people.
Of course.
And but it's not all sunshine and rainbows. Like it's just, that's why I need the community aspect. And at Billy Goat, I feel like I'm building something that I really honestly see is lacking, and I want to be a part of it. And that's what I'm doing.
I love it. I love it. How'd it come about? Like, what's the story of acquisition?
So I had some capital. I was looking at investing, and I was actually looking at the restaurant industry just because I love hospitality, and I wanted to be able to serve people and have a space that I could do things that we're doing now.
Of course.
So I looked at a couple properties or businesses in other states and was going to have people come in to help manage it that I knew and trusted. Well, nothing worked out. So I started about a year and a half ago now. I started a kids coaching program in Franklin, Tennessee,
Yep.
where I rise up champions not just in sport but in life. And I'm teaching them self-defense, but I'm really teaching them respect, discipline, characteristics that are going to help them to rise up in life. And those kids in the community is what kept me here, because I was like, I cannot keep these, I cannot leave these kids, and can't leave this program that I've built. And I just decided one day, I'm going to look and see in Central Tennessee what there is. It came up on bizbuysell.com, and I looked at it and was like, you know what? I'm going to check this out, and I think this can work. So then on my birthday, I actually went to the coffee shop. Nobody knew who I was. Nobody knew what I was doing, but I just wanted to observe.
Of course.
And I scoped it out, just felt like this is it. I can do this. And ended up putting an offer in. They actually didn't take my offer at first. So I went through that phase of, well, like this is
on to the next one, I guess. Yeah.
So, but then it ended up coming back around, and I jumped on the opportunity, and it was just one of those feelings. Like I mean, obviously I looked at the numbers.
Yeah. Due diligence, of course. You don't want to buy a,
No, but I knew. I just, like, in my gut, I was like, I don't. It's not that I don't care about the numbers, but I really don't care, because I know I just felt led to do this. And I've seen confirmation after confirmation of doing this over and over, of random people that walk through the door, opportunities, and most of the time it happens after hours, where it's when I would prefer to just go home, most people, but it's like when somebody walks in the door, it's an opportunity to serve them. And then what ends up happening is usually it returns in the back end too. And it's just, it's all about changing people's lives. And that's what led me to really pull the trigger on taking over the coffee shop. Was I don't have a coffee shop experience.
Yeah.
I actually didn't start drinking coffee until like beginning of last year, which is kind of funny. So my baristas, and I have a really good staff. Like the baristas I have, I would say are some of the best around. Like truly, I believe that. And they like to make fun of me and joke, but I want that type of culture. Like, to me, the coffee shop is not just about serving the customers. I have an opportunity to really build leaders and build people who, whatever they want to do in life, I want them to succeed well beyond Billy Goat. And I take that approach to everything I do. And I think that is what has made me successful in the things I've done, because I genuinely just want to see other people succeed.
Yeah.
I'm not in this to, like, we're all going to die someday. Like, it's, my motive is to really enjoy life, obviously, but I want to serve other people, and I get enjoyment through that.
Yeah.
Like, I love it.
Well, it reminds me of that quote or statement or whatever. I think maybe Russell Brunson or Branson or Richard Branson might have said it, but it's like, you've got to take care of the employees first.
Absolutely.
And then the money and the customers, and then the money.
Yeah.
Right. So it's like, okay, well, how can you provide a great service and an enhanced service to the customers, but in turn you're looking to impact the actual employees, the associates, because they are going to go take care of the customers, right? So if you make great leaders, you make great hospitality folks, and you focus on them, spend time with them, train them, give them opportunities, allow them to bring in some of these ideas, right? Whether it's a menu item or whether it's a community night event. That is you being a leader, which in turn is educating and expanding and transforming your team members to become leaders, which in turn will create future impact, which in turn will create a ripple effect of impact. Absolutely. So what you're building in your coffee shop in Mount Juliet is actually a center for people to rise it up from an employee standpoint, from a customer standpoint, from a community standpoint. And what I love about it all is you're humanizing the approach. And what I mean by that is, you're saying exactly what you want to do. You're saying why you want to do it. And, I've just enjoyed watching your Instagram and watching your Facebook and then popping over to Billy Goat. Are you doing Billy Goat's social media as well?
I have been.
Okay,
The
yeah.
plan is
Because I can
to turn
see
that
the
over.
through line, though.
Yeah,
I can
I
see the
have been.
through line,
Yeah.
which is great. But of course, as you scale and build, you'll
Yeah.
probably have to, outsource that.
Yeah.
What is the first thing you would advise someone to do when it comes to leadership around your employees or associates? Like, what did you first do? You acquired this business, you did the paperwork, you paid the check, you did the things, and then you said, I want to build leaders. What was the first few things you did in order to do that?
I think the first thing you need to do is you need to humble yourself. A lot of people come in and they think, "Oh, I'm the owner. I know everything. I have the money." That can only work for so long, and there can be a time and a place to do that.
Of course.
But
I call it level one leadership, where you utilize your title and your level of authority.
Yeah.
And I think John Maxwell, this is his framework, but there's 5 levels and you want to get to 5. That process is just level 1,
Yeah, and as a military officer, I've seen a lot of that.
Yeah.
And I take pride in the fact that as a military officer, and I was active duty for just shy of 6 years, and I've served in the reserves for about 3. And I've had opportunities to work with a lot of people, and to me, I've only once of that entire time I've had to say, do this because I said so.
Yeah.
And it was just because we had no time. But I believe in, first you have to humble yourself and realize that I'm no better than the other person. It's going in and building rapport and understanding, hey, if I don't have a team that is aligned and here to work, I can't take this ship to the destination that I'm trying to take it to. And that was something I knew that I needed to build rapport, because I wasn't worried about the business side. I was more worried about the coffee side, because I wasn't a coffee drinker.
Yeah.
So I don't understand. If my team decides to up and leave, I have
Brian's not making my vanilla latte with a little spice on top and my seasonal, sugar cookie, Americano or whatever,
And now I will say I've learned a lot and I've observed a lot, and like I can do a lot now, but at the beginning I couldn't do that. So it was building that rapport, and then the first thing I did was I asked every single person that I worked with. I wanted to know their personal desires, not so much their professional desires, but I wanted to know personally, what do they want to do in life, and I wanted to know, what do they like about the coffee shop, what do they not like about it. And something that I've done is I value putting ownership in people's hands, because if I understand what motivates you, if you're an employee of mine, I understand what motivates you, and I do everything I possibly can to fill those desires, you're going to want to stay. You're going to want to work there. And I tell every single one of my employees, and I stand by this, I will pay you all over 6 figs if we can. I don't care. I don't care what the competition pays, because there is no competition to me. We are embracing our roar of who we are as a coffee shop, and we are going to serve people with standards of high expectation and quality. But it's first, you have to remember it's all about people. And when you acquire the business, it's understanding that it's not a getting out of the transactional business and getting into the transformation business. And I think you can do that in everything that you do.
Yeah.
I don't care what the business is. I think there's a way to make that happen.
And I think it's that level of uniqueness, right? Because at any point in time, ultimately, you're bringing your flavor to it. You're bringing your, little sprinkle on top, right? Maybe it's on top of a latte. Maybe it's never on top of a latte, because that's not the importance of why you acquire a business, right? But ultimately, that level of uniqueness is going to either excel and propel or diminish and deflate. Right, and it's going to deflate the business, whether it's in a coal mining industry, a coffee shop, a marketing company. It could be a plumber, an HVAC company. you need people to perform the duties, and the relationship, especially in today's world, compared to essentially when a majority of the people on this world lived in a business realm that wasn't like this, right? Because in today's age, things have changed, right? As the boomers get older and the millennials come in and the Gen Zs and below, like there has to be that level of commitment to the associate and the employee and the team member, not just them having a commitment to the company's bottom line. And when you allow both of those to continue to rise it up, in Brian's terms, then you're going to get to that level of leadership where people are bringing ideas, managing, working, later to accomplish a project, all those things we want, wish, and hope for, but we, as business owners, potentially didn't put in the work or assess and analyze the human factor of the business in order to accomplish that.
And I think so a lot of business is like, you have to know the numbers, you have to run numbers. And a lot of people that are looking to acquire a business, that's what they look at, which is obviously important. But I think you have to analyze, and just like you would get the data of sales and expenses, the profit and loss side, just like you would look for that, I think you need to put all the data that's the customer responses, the feedback, that needs to go into a spreadsheet. And that's actually one of the first things I did as well, was I put a suggestion box next to the register, advertise it out to people. Hey, I want to know your feedback. I had a vision night, sharing just my vision of where I wanted to take the cafe. And then I asked for open floor, which I know a lot of business owners would probably, that could be a,
you gotta manage it and control it, but you should do it. I'm a big fan of it.
But for me, I was like, I'm very open and transparent. I don't want to do business like everybody else.
Yeah.
I want people to see, man, this business is all about the community. It's not really, yes, it is a business, but it's the more we can make, the more we're going to give out.
Yeah.
And it's understanding what are the needs, what are the desires, what are you doing well, what are you not, and taking that data, putting it into something that you can analyze, and then there's just where it's simple, just do the work.
Yeah.
That's where a lot of people fall off the wagon.
You reminded me Charlie Munger, right? He talks about, going to each associate and asking them what they love and what we need to do more of, and then asking them what we need to remove a week ago. And that pisses them off, right? And the reality of it is you're getting both spectrums, and you don't want to just hear the positive, but you want to hear the negative, and then you compile the data, similar to probably what you've done, right? And you analyze and look at it and say, okay, is this just a one-off, right? If I have 100 employees and one employee says, the vacation policy sucks, right? You don't change the vacation policy.
Right.
If you got two employees and one of them says it sucks, well, then you need to get the team together and have a democratic approach to what you do or change, because it's a minimal, small team. And I think we forget that as we scale, grow, as we move into that stage of viability and then that stage of scale. What are we actually doing around the human factor, and what are we actually doing around the associates and employees? And, I think, and I'd love to hear your opinion on it, with an AI-driven world, with where we're at right now, speed to lead, machine learning, AGI is coming, people are going to pour all and everything into those functions, those digital functions. But I think we're going to see a drop-off of service, and we're going to see a high level of frustration from companies' customers when they have to experience that. And I'll give you an example. I was driving down Lebanon Pike this morning, and I looked over at the Waffle House, and on the sign underneath Waffle House, it said, "We don't have kiosks, we have humans."
I love that.
So Waffle House is literally marketing humanization of a chain where, and this isn't a blanket statement, anything against Waffle House, but my experience is some of the staff are a little rough in there, right? Like I've literally seen the chef smoke a cigarette, flick it, and then go, scoop food and deliver it. So they're humanizing that approach, saying, come see our humans who aren't Ritz-Carlton hospitality experts behind the grills, right? And they're promoting and pitching that. So my question to you is, how do you see AI playing into all businesses, and yours specifically, from a humanization standpoint?
I've actually had a lot of conversations with my staff. So the first thing that I always do, because I have a lot of ideas and I'm always thinking, how can I improve the business efficiency for the business, but also for the staff?
Yep.
Because the more efficient they are, the better we're going to be, the more enjoyable they're going to be. It's just us taking out the tension points in every single person's day is what I always try to do.
If
And
you remove the tedious stuff, then it gives them more time with the right training to focus on the customer,
of course,
engage in a longer, maybe deeper conversation because stuff's working in the background.
absolutely.
And they still get that amazing cup of joe.
Absolutely. Yeah, and so I think AI can definitely be beneficial. Absolutely. I think in industries, and I'm not a guru on it, but I think it's something that I've had conversations with my staff literally about this, and even going to like you'll see at some places, you'll see just a digital where you can put your order in and things like that. And
Yeah.
and I think it not only does it take away from the human factor, like yes, I think it can speed up efficiency, but it also takes away from your staff's opportunity to build customer service skill sets. And to me, I'm not afraid to challenge my staff in a politeful way, but I want them to be challenged so that they grow.
Yeah.
I don't always give them the answer at the time they want. I sometimes will, because I have to look at the whole picture, and I want them to have opportunities to be able to show themselves, hey, I can actually do this. And sometimes that takes the owner stepping out and them figuring it out. And I know because when I've been on as a military officer, there was times where I wanted to run to my superior and I couldn't find them or I couldn't get a hold of them for whatever reason. And I mean, you're stuck in a place. You have to figure it out.
You
Like,
figure it out.
it's in some and it's there's in some cases, like obviously the situations I was dealing with overseas on like my deployment, different scale than what I'm dealing with at the coffee shop, but the principle is the exact same. And I've had that happen. And now I try every way I can to listen to my staff, to listen to the customers, and there's some things that will take immediately, like the register side of things. If we go fully to an AI system, that's probably going to affect the tips that my staff gets. And it affects the opportunity for them to build relationships with people and network with people. The coffee shop is like a hub of people of all walks of life come through.
Of course.
And when I understand that one of my staff members wants to eventually lead like Christian hip hop dance, I've had this opportunity come up where I've made connections with people who are owners of dance studios, and it hasn't quite worked out yet, but I want to provide my staff opportunities to do things they love, and that could come from them having a conversation if their hands are not tied and they have the opportunity to build that rapport and build the personalization. It's all part of what we do at Billy Goat, but it's being people, and it's realizing I don't want to be like a Starbucks. I don't want to be like anybody else. Like, we are different. And I think there's enough people in this world that we can all succeed in our own lanes, because you might want something one day, you might want something completely different the next. And it's having the systems in place to be able to take care of my staff. So AI can help in those ways, but I still think we live in a human world. Think about COVID-19 era, right? Like, there was, at first it's like, yeah, this is great. People don't have to do things. And then it's like a whole shock to the world, because eventually people want to go back to work. They're having situations where they're not as used to, or they're stuck in an area they no longer want to be in. So it's kind of that.
People want variety, I think.
do.
And I heard a quote a long time ago, man, probably when I was like 15 or 16, and it was like, variety is the spice of life.
Yeah.
Right? And it's that we don't want that mundane, consistent, over and over experience. But it's also funny because, and this is my opinion, how to build a business, grow a business, succeed in a business, develop a skill takes that consistent, mundane, over and over and over practice and experience, right? So what we find exciting and variety in the spice of life is amazing on the personal side, or, but when it comes to work, I actually believe the opposite.
Yeah, and so our last live music performer at Billy Goat Coffee Cafe was a Grammy Award-winning songwriter. And something I talked to him about was he was talking about the music industry.
What's his name?
Chuck Thomas.
Cool.
And so he is somebody who he's performed with, the best. And he's got some really cool experiences. But one thing I took away when we were talking was that he said, because it's so hard for musicians to get, and it's like there's so many talented artists out there, it's a matter of, it just goes through waves. And it's like, you just got to stay true to who you are, and you just got to do what you're doing. And actually, I was listening to one of your podcast episodes on my way here, and it was either you or the guest that said something literally like this, and it's remembering like who you are and doing what you're doing, and not veering away from that just to try to be like somebody else. And like Chuck was saying, it goes through waves, and what might catch fire today might be completely different tomorrow.
Yeah.
So if you're always trying to change, you're always going to miss that wave because you're trying to go with the flow.
100%. And in my experience personally is if you don't hit the timing perfectly every time, then you miss. And when you miss bad. Yeah. Right? So if you're trying to transform into the next thing and the next thing and the next thing because you're riding the waves, you're riding the trend, great, you can hit it hard, right? Like I look at my real estate career and I'm like, I dove into real estate because I started investing and I liked it, but I hit it timing. Like I hit it right before the boom and then rode the boom and did a bunch of deals and it was amazing. But what if I got into real estate right now?
Yeah.
Right? And maybe there's a different reason, but if I was going to keep transforming, I could hit it, I could just miss it.
It's hard though.
And if you're a realtor right now, it's hard. Like it is hard,
I think it's hard to stay true to that. Like no matter, at least in my opinion, like no matter what things I've been able to do, the miles and miles of things that I've had experience in long ultra marathon running in the trails by myself, the things that you realize like it's hard to stay locked in at times, even for somebody who is seen as very talented at it.
Totally.
But it's hard, and you need those systems in the same way in business, like in your life. And I think the number one thing to do is continue to develop yourself. And that means doing hard things, getting around people that are better than you. And a lot of people goes back to my first point, be humble. And it's a lot of people, they want to be the best. I don't want to be the best in my circle. Now I strive to be the best in my circle, but once I reach the best, I go get into another circle, but it doesn't mean I'm better than the circle I left.
Yeah.
And it's all.
There's value proposition in every level. You've got to have the humbleness and the rigidity to bounce back and forth, knowing that you may be giving, but you also may be getting.
Yeah.
Right? And that flow is life, essentially, Talking about personal development, talking about, working on yourself, share what's your opinion around personal development. You said you had a coach. Talk to me a little bit about how you're kind of, watering, and sowing your own seeds.
So I believe, and we met through a personal development and like opportunity.
Yeah.
And it's something that I believe in. Life is short, and I want to be the best that I can be. And a big motivator for me is I want to be able to lead people the best way I can. And that requires me to get better. And that requires me to do hard things. And it requires me to get into rooms with people. And that's the side of personal development. Like, I am a firm believer, because I've seen it in my own life, that having somebody as like a coach can be, it can save years of heartache and hardship that you're going to go through just by exposure. But I think you have to be careful. And we've had conversations about this. Like, there's a lot of people in that space that it's not about, it's about just money, and it's transactional. And for that person, that might be good, and that's fine. But for me, it's like I truly want to transform people's lives, and I want to be around people who are the same way.
Same. Yeah.
And I think that's the personal development side. I'm a huge believer and advocate for it, but it doesn't always look the same for everybody. Like going to a conference might not be the same effect as just reaching out to somebody and asking for somebody's advice that you know has done what you do, and not being afraid of that, or walking into a room that you don't feel qualified for, because oftentimes those are the situations in your life that are going to change everything. Like for me, the life-changing moments for me that have really elevated me on a lot of areas have come from I had to step into that uncomfort zone. But the thing is, I'm used to that because I've ran multiple ultra marathons. I've been in places physically, mentally where I was broken and I just had no choice, but I'm going to keep going. And that's where I think you have to do some deep reflection and really ask yourself, like, what is it you want to do? And the personal development side is going to help you get there.
Totally. Totally. And it's one of those things too where I think, you've got to reduce and knock down the ego,
Yeah.
right? But I also think, to your point, you were talking about alignment. You were talking about us having a previous conversation of like, are people doing and coaching or consulting for the impact? And are they actually pouring into people, or are they just kind of selling something and then letting people kind of flood out and just more leads, more sales, more people, right? And I think what you said earlier about you acquiring Billy Goat Cafe, you said, I had that feeling.
Yeah.
And I would encourage anybody, when they hire a coach, when they hire a consultant, be analytical. Does it make sense financially? Understand the scope of work in detail. If you're not sure, ask the questions, get it in writing, sign a contract, like legitimize the process as much as possible, but also sleep on it and refer back to what your gut tells you and what that feeling is. Because ultimately, I've spent a lot of money. I mean, I think when you and I met, you said you just had spent 13,000, right?
Yeah,
I spent
sure.
40,000 that year.
Yeah.
And I moved quick because I take action. I make quick decisions.
Yeah.
I don't want to think about it. I don't want it to waste brain space. But there was a feeling that I wasn't paying attention to. And as far as that money spent, I think it was great money spent because I learned a lesson. But I didn't get the partnership or the level of the relationship that I was seeking. And I also necessarily didn't want it because there wasn't that level of alignment around impact. But pay attention to that feeling, because here's the thing. There's a zillion business coaches today, and there's specific people that you will align with, and you may have to go through several. Right? Like there's tons of speakers. I've thrown hundreds of events, been involved in several hundred. I've seen speakers, I've hired them, I've put them on stages, I've been on stages with them, I've been in green rooms behind them speaking together. And there's tons of people, but there's a lot of people that you're going to have to go through to find that right coach, to find that person you align with. And I can have a great conversation in the green room. I can have a great conversation, on stage in a panel. I can have a great conversation at a dinner. But ultimately, I've got to analyze and realize, is this the right fit and feeling for me, knowing that there is going to be someone next down the line if this doesn't feel good 100% of it.
Yeah, and I think it's also, it depends on the season of life that you're in too. Like
True.
It can change in regards to and it's the same like when you put on different conferences, it's a theme of a conference, or the people you bring in might be more attracting or might be more needed for somebody specifically at that time of their life.
True.
So it's finding that alignment. 100% agree. And I think
You hit such a good point, man, because that's also another thing that I've learned is people can come in your life and out of your life and fit a purpose and fit a season and fit a stage, and that's completely okay. And if the other person on the receiving end, if you communicate that politely, effectively, and appropriately, and the other person on the other end pushes back or doesn't agree with it or tries to fight and push to continue you working with them or hiring them, then you run faster away. Because the reality of it is if you come to me and I'm coaching you, and you come to me and you say, hey, Jim, this has been great. I'm not going to renew this agreement, and I only do 90-day agreements with all my people because of this reason, right? I call it a 90-day sprint. We're going to sprint, we're going to focus on this scope of work, and then we reassess. But if you're in and you're saying politely, hey, this is great, this is what I needed, I'm going to go somewhere else, this is why, and you do it in a nice way, and that person ignores you or pushes back or tries to hard sell you or make you feel guilty, then you run faster. Yeah. And the reason is because I've done that. And guess what? I've re-signed with people, and I've spent the money. And then I wished I didn't do it the whole time, because that behavior not only sticks in the back of your head as in your subconscious when you're working one-on-one or directly with these folks, but also you start to see things through a different lens where that behavior is popping up in this comment, in this suggestion, what they're talking about maybe with a different client or a past client. So all those things kind of come together. But, let's jump into the Rise It Up. You've written a children's book. You've got your children's training. I see you down at the gym working with kids. We've had a mutual friend that was doing some fitness stuff at the gym with you. And I just see smiles, man. Like, everybody seems happy, full of energy. Like, my question to you is, what does that fulfill for you? Because that program, you're not making millions of dollars, and it's a lot of time. You mentioned earlier the kids kept you here in Middle Tennessee. You acquired Billy Goat Cafe and Coffee specifically so you could stay here. So I got to ask, like, what does this fulfill for you, and what's the passion around it, and why are you so attracted to doing that?
So something that really stood out to me is I was having a conversation with somebody one day, and they had said the future of our country. And it was just that tagline that really lit a fire inside of me. And it was, I've seen my 21-year-old cousin commit suicide. I've seen people die tragically. I've led 195 military funerals. And I want to make sure every single person that I impact or that I have the opportunity to come across in life, I want them to know that they have so much purpose in life. And I want them to know that they are loved and they are cared for, and that they can do hard things no matter what mountain that they face in life. I want these kids to know that I can't stop the bullies, but I can bully-proof kids by teaching them how to really embrace who they are and to have fun. Like, I've done a lot of really difficult things, but I also will be the goofball that gets laughed at in the class because I do something crazy for the kids. Like, I want them, it fulfills a part of my heart that I believe is why I am on this earth. And that is to really spread, in my belief, it's to spread the love of Jesus to people. And that's what I try to do. And it's just by being genuine and having conversations. And man, it is unbelievable the things that I've heard about these kids that are no longer on anxiety medication. That I had a kid that told his mom he wanted to take his life. So coming from what I've seen, having that ability to be that role model. I ran the mid-state mile last man standing race last year that I ran. I had a bunch of the kids come out to the race and literally help, like, in between the laps. I was 40, 50 miles in at this time, and it's hot outside. They're wiping with wet rags, so they're keeping me cool. Like, the kids, I didn't ask them to do this. Like, that to me is so fulfilling to see a kid that gets it, that it's not about them, or to have a kid that comes in and I know there's tension between them and another kid and it's all over. They don't like each other. So what do? I put them together as partners and I make them work. And now, just last week, I had these two kids. They hang out with each other. They play video games with each other. They're like best friends. They literally would say, I do not like this person. I listen to them, but I don't really care because they're trying to take the easy way out. And I get to rise up champions, not just in self-defense, but in life. And to see these kids go on and one day, whether they choose to go to college and get a scholarship, or whether they choose to take an entrepreneur route, or whether they just choose to be a good person. Like, I don't care. I want them to know that while Coach Brian was coaching them, I want them to know that, man, Coach Brian, he loves us, he cares about us, he's good at what he's teaching. Obviously, I want that to be important, but I want to see them thrive. I am not the face of it. Like, even though I've been the one that coaches it, that's put it on, and started it from the beginning, I've done all the bootstrapping, stuff like that, everything. But it's not about me. It's about helping those kids so that when they get faced with a bully, when they get faced with, I don't want to live anymore, when they get a phone call that maybe they just lost their parent, or maybe somebody just said something about them online that really crushes them, I want them to be so assured in who they are that that doesn't lead them to a casket. I want them to be so assured that they know who they are, and that is enough to get them into the right community. And then when that happens, the right community will build an overcomer's mindset. And then when you have that overcomer's mindset, you walk into situations, you walk into rooms differently, but you do it with humility. And then that humility is what has other people wanting to be around you, because they don't walk around like they're better than anybody. And the kids that I teach, they know that if they come in and they act like they're the biggest, baddest person that's ever there, I will have them go against me. And I've had kids that literally will, and I give them opportunities to work together to beat me. And because I know that some of those kids, they can beat me if they work together. But any of them, if they go one-on-one, they're going to lose. And they know. And there was one class that there was one kid specifically, he tried. He's like, I can beat you. Okay, we'll go. Okay, and we ran. I mean, it was probably like 5-10 minutes, just sprints back and forth, short sprints. And every time he lost. And then I gave him an opportunity and I tried to hint at it. And eventually you could see like this level of defeat. And then he's like, okay, we'll work together. And then they beat me. Like, so it's like, and it was the whole point. Like, I want to be in a place where I can be fit enough, strong enough mentally, where I can help these kids. But my fulfillment is not in the tangible skills that they're learning. It's more in the intangible, the rock solid confidence that these kids walk around with. And it's like, I created somebody who's a champion in so many ways. And it fulfills that emotional, my spirit. Like, it feels, that's why I do what I do. It's
Goosebump moment, man. Goosebumps. You're saying that with the kids and, all that stuff around why you do it. And it just gave me goosebumps because I can feel your passion. I can feel your energy. I can feel your soul. I can feel your heart. And that's true impact. So thank you, Brian, for being here, spending some time, sharing what you've been up to, some of your adventures, and how you're impacting the world today. Is there anything you'd like to share with the audience before we depart?
If you are in the Central Tennessee area, or even if you're not, I encourage you to book a flight, come on down to Billy Goat Coffee Cafe, and I would love the chance just to meet them in person. The opportunity to build relationships with people is something that really, you never know. That one person that you meet could change your entire life. And I want that person out there that's watching to remember that no mountain is too big in life when you choose to rise up. And it's more than a saying, it's a lifestyle.
Let's go. Let's go.